Hi, everybody. It's me, Kenzie, and we're back on the Wicked Campfire podcast. It has been a moment since I've been here. I figure right now we'll clock into 1 year since I was last on this podcast. Yeah, I had a lot to figure out, especially to do this podcast, because I didn't know the direction I was supposed to take. But today we are here and we're ticking all our boxes in the coming months with the guest that we're having today because she's just the jack of all trades when it comes to all things magic. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a wonderful guest. I met her by the fate of everything alive on this planet. Her name's Sunshine, but her birth name is Jennifer Elaine. I will not try to pronounce her third name because I'm sure I'll butcher it. But Jen, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Kenzie, I'm so excited to be here. Very delighted. Thanks for having me.
There's nobody who could be as delighted as I am right now because I have a psychic medium on my podcast. This was one of the things that I wanted to do on this podcast when I started it last year, and I started it on my birthday. And I swore to myself, I will find a psychic medium to be on this podcast because how can you have a paranormal podcast and not have the psychic elements to it? And then
I would agree. I would agree.
you showed up. You just popped up. I didn't even have to search that long. You just showed up. So today, Jen, I just want to talk about you and your life because in the coming episodes, I don't know when, because this particular one has already taken us 2 months just to be here. So we'll talk about you today. I have a few random questions. I'm sure a lot of this will be answered by you before we even get to ask. So to kick us off, tell us, Sunshine, who is Sunshine slash Jennifer Elaine Ronowski, if I'm not wrong.
Real close. Romanowski. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll just go by Jennifer Elaine. Your last name's complicated.
Yeah. Thanks, Kenzie. I mean, who am I? I'm a human living on this planet Earth that was blessed with a lot of really beautiful gifts, including a connection to the divine, psychic abilities, the power to wield the energies within the universe, to conduct magic. And I'm also a friend, a lover, a daughter, an aunt, I want to say a pretty good cook, a lover of music, and a secret backup dancer for an imaginary band in my mind.
We all are. We all
Yeah.
are. I've got 2 left feet, but I am the queen of choreography in my mind. I can dance, but I can't, but I can. Yeah. And you forgot cats. You left out the cats.
Oh, I am also the mother of 5 cats. I never, the figurative mother of 5 cats. Yes, yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. And I know for those who are listening, you won't get to see the video part of this, but Jen, as she describes herself, she's a friendly neighborhood, pink-haired psychic medium. But to me, when I think of her, and I told her when we began this call, when I think about her, I think about every single witch you think of in a fantasy novel that you read out there, especially those written past 2015. But on top of that, just add the spring season. If she was a season, she would have been spring. If she was a book, she would have been every single fantasy book. And I am curious to know, how did Sunshine come about? Because I know you say that it's your universal name, but I'm curious. Tell us the story. Tell us the story how you became Sunshine.
Yeah. It's my universe given name. And we're probably going on about, gosh, it was probably about 2020, like 2009, 2010, maybe right around then. A really good friend of mine at that time had 2 children, a boy, and he was probably around the age of 5, and a little girl by the age of 3, and they lived a mile from me. And so I was often there, at once or twice a week. I'd stop by after work, I'd hang out and we'd play, and I'd hang out with my friend. And I hadn't been there for a while. Life had gotten kind of busy. And so the little girl starts asking my friend, where's Auntie Sunshine? My friend has no clue who she's talking about at all. Right? Like, what are you, Auntie Sunshine? I don't know who you're talking about. And so a couple of weeks had passed. I finally show up and I walk in the back door. The little girl comes running over to me, Auntie Sunshine, Auntie Sunshine. And my friend looks at me and goes, "You're Auntie Sunshine?" And I was like, "I guess I am." Yeah. So I say, the universe blessed me this name by the unbelievable delight of a little 3-year-old girl.
Oh, kids are magical. Kids are magical.
Yeah.
It started as a nickname and now it's stuck till the end of time. So speaking of kids, let's rewind your clock back. Take us back to the beginning as a child, because I'm quite curious. You are part of the world of mystics, depending on what any person meets you as. Some people will meet you as Sunshine, the psychic medium. Some people will meet you as Sunshine, the high priestess. Some will meet you as Sunshine, the Reiki master. So take us to how it all began. Especially with the psychic medium, did this just pop out of nowhere, or was it an interest that turned into who you are today?
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of a little bit of all of the above, right? I've had these gifts my entire life. I didn't recognize them or understand them for what they were, probably until I became, an adult. But I've had them my entire life. And I was very blessed, even though I was raised in a Catholic household. I was born and raised Catholic. I went to Catholic schools, both sides of my family Catholic. My grandmother on my mother's side, though this devout Catholic woman, was a medium. She talked to spirit. She referred to it as talking to the angels. So I was really lucky that my family had an acceptance of psychic abilities. And so I found myself around the age of 16 after being through the church and the Catholic Church and them not having the answers, right? I would ask these questions. They would never provide, they would just leave me hanging or expect me to just accept these really dogmatic type of explanations. And I stumbled into my first metaphysics store. And so I was at the age of 16 and felt like for the first time I was in a place that I was going to be able to get answers. Felt like I was for the first time in a place that I felt comfortable and I was almost at home. I still can't smell, Nag Champa, the incense Nag Champa, without going right back to this store. And when I was 16, and so I purchased my first tarot card deck. Counter to what some people say you should and shouldn't do. And I started reading for some friends, and it wasn't just reading them, right? Every individual that picks up a tarot card deck, they're going to look at the meaning book. They're going to look at meaning sheets. They're going to want to try to understand what the literal meaning, but I would start to get pictures. I would start to get feelings. I would start to get other narratives and beyond what the actual, images on the cards actually represented. So I would share these and it was resonating. We fast forward from there. I was at the age of 19. We were a year from my grandmother's passing. And my grandfather invited me to go on vacation with him and a number of other family members. And through some conversations with an aunt, I said, I think I can talk to spirit. I think I have the same gift as grandma. And she said, well, let's try. And so my grandmother had sat and had seances with my other family members many, many times. I'd never sat through one. So I asked my aunt, what do I do? She said, you just sit, great. We just will have the lights low and you just tell us if you see anything or you hear anything. And lo and behold, in that particular instance, I started to see friends of my aunts that were there that had long since passed. I started to describe the exact same spirit guides that my grandmother had been describing of my cousins for years at that particular point. And so, here I was, 19-year-old, in vacation, actually in Hawaii for the very first time, getting the validation, what they would consider evidential mediumship right there with my family. And so, this I say, did it kind of like spring up? Yeah, it kind of sprung up. And from that point forward, I would read for friends. The mediumship was an interesting one because I had a couple of poorly received experiences, right? Where I would share a mediumship and it freaked people out. They weren't ready to
Yeah.
hear it. They were like, I don't really know what's going on. So I learned my lesson at a very young age. Don't offer that insight unless somebody has asked for it. So yeah, I you could say I kind of stumbled onto the gifts, but they've been with me my entire life. They were just waiting for the right opportunity to wake up.
And speaking of which, the topic of the gifts of mystics or those in the occult, these are some things that we can talk and talk and talk about and never extinguish, because it's once you begin talking about one thing, something else comes up. Like right now, already questions are already popping up, but I'm sure that the one thing that majority of people on this planet will begin, especially for you, since you mentioned that you grew up in a Catholic household and surrounded by other devotees of the religion. How did that affect your practices? Because for some people, you realize they find a lot of criticism. Some people find isolation. Some people find they feel like they're the black sheep in the community. So for you, how was this? Was it a good thing, a bad thing, or maybe an educational thing in your life?
Yeah. I would say from that point forward, I was kind of the black sheep in the family, maybe not in the community, but in the family. I was a little bit of a joke. It was kind of a laughing matter. I was the witch in the family, and people kind of ridiculed it a bit. I kept a lot of it, so to speak, in the broom closet. Right. I wasn't very open with it. I had a handful of friends that maybe knew and understood and maybe actually, explored some of these things with me. I would occasionally meet someone, I would mention tarot and they would be interested in a reading. But I really was not so much isolated like in a circle or anything of that nature, but isolated in my beliefs and my practices. Absolutely 100%. I've talked with other folks, I have a very dear friend that I work with in a psychic circuit local to my home. And she's 80 years old. She's been doing this since she was in her 30s. 50 years she's been doing this. And we've had conversations that when she first started, there was a fear of her being arrested and thrown into jail for doing this. Right. And so, when I first started, it wasn't like that, but it was very much so behind closed doors. Be careful who you share it with. Be prepared for the eye rolls, and be prepared for the daggers to be thrown your way, so to speak, because there are a lot of folks that are going to label it as evil, dark, black magic, devil worshiping, Satan, Satanism, and things of that nature. So I don't experience it as much today. But in the early times, we're talking like 1996, yeah, it was a much different time back then.
That reminds me of an Instagram post I saw earlier on today. It was it was actually a funny reel. They were saying that, oh, everybody is now flaunting their witchy powers because they can't stone us anymore, or they can't burn us anymore, they can't hang us on the stake anymore. And the first thought that pulled onto my mind was like, oh yes, bring me the grimoire, because that is true. Because times right now, people are more open as compared to back then. Yes, there are people who are still skeptics. There are people who won't believe in it. There are people who will stick to facts of science or religion, because if you don't understand it, then it's not real. That's what the world has taught us so far. But what I've gotten to understand, and what has become a foundation for this podcast, is that every community, every region in this planet, everybody has their own definitions of these matters, no matter if it's ghost hunting, if it's spirits, if it's demons, if it's deities, if it's witchcraft, if it's being a high priestess. So for you, especially I know in the United States, everybody has their own translation of this. We have those from Hawaii, we have the Red Indians, we have immigrants who come with their own beliefs, we have voodoos from the Black community, then the Mexicans come in. So for
Yeah,
you,
with the Brujan. Yep.
yeah, everybody just comes in. And I'm curious, for you, I'm sure you're in or maybe surrounded by people in this community. You have your own group of people. So how has your experience been, especially in your adult life, surrounded by all these new stories, beliefs, theories from various communities?
Yeah. How has it been? It's interesting because I think as an adult, I'm still a lot more comfortable with it and being open with it, even though there's still some hesitation from me. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's a little bit spooky still. It's you're able to be much more open.
Mm-hmm.
But we still live in a world that people can have ignorance and they can make harsh judgments. So I find to me that when you kind of know that it's safe, right, and you're able to explore it with a lot of, I have a good community. I've got folks locally that I've connected with. I've got folks throughout the United States that I've been able to connect with throughout the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the most fascinating and wonderful and beautiful thing as you start to really explore this, and as you were saying, is even though we may all culturally see things differently,
Mm-hmm.
we may culturally call it something different. Our practice may be have a different flavor, a different language, a different way to perceive things. At the end of the day, most of these folks, most of these, you know, uh, spiritual paths, all have three things in common, right? All have three things in common. And that is kind of what I even describe as my foundation of witchcraft. All of these believe in kind of the ability, like a psychic ability, the ability to connect to a divine, to talk to a spirit, to talk to a higher self, to be able to look at and see, that there's some kind of beauty in the world beyond and outside ourselves. The second pillar is the pillar of being able to invoke that, right? To be able to work with it. That is magic, right? That's what magic is. So when people are talking about, if you're talking in the Christian faith around miracles, if you're talking in like the back and healings and things of that nature, that's magic, which then still leads us to the third, and that is the practice of actually being of service to other individuals, to heal, to help, to pray for, right? And every single one, and that's, I think, one of the things that I really truly love being in this time as an adult, as an adult witch in this time, is because I can look at all of these different spiritual paths and I can lean into every single one of them and say, what feels right for me? What do I want to take? What do I want to pull into my own practice? Right? What's going to fill my cup up? What aligns with my belief? And I get to create this my own personal kind of dogma to believe in and to guide my life forward. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
what I love about it.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. And in in case there are people out there who are quite curious, because I'm sure the moment somebody mentions witch, everybody goes, "Oh, Salem. Ooh, the Bible, those who are reckoned to die in blazes of fire. Ooh, everybody who does anything wrong. Ooh, black magic." So, for you, in terms, if you were to be asked, describe who witches are or what a coven is, what would you tell somebody these two terms are?
Yeah, I mean, a witch is an individual that believes and leverages their psychic abilities, believes and can use the energy of the universe, and believes in healing and practices it of others, right? And people can lean that way towards the dark or the light, however they so choose, right? But a witch is, I think most of us can identify as a witch if we actually peel back the layers and want to try to remove the whole this whole what's it, stereotype,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's kind of this negative stereotype that's put onto it. And as far as a coven goes, I mean, literal, the definition is just witches that gather. You know,
It's a
I mean,
group of
that's literally,
sisters.
that's like that's literally what it is, you know. And so there's a lot of people that have a hard time with that word. You know, they have a hard time with the word witch because there's so many stories. There's like, I mean, and I've read, there's a lot of really, really good literature that talks about the history of the witch. There's a lot of really good, you know, you can go back and look at paintings and things of that nature that were and there are reasons why they demonize this word, right? There are reasons why, you know, some of the churches and things of that nature and the governments demonize this word. But, you know, it's a long standing, the actual practice of a witch is long standing and has served kings, queens, royalty for centuries, right? And as far as a coven goes, I mean, that to me is silly. People like to get, I think it's a more misunderstood term in the community than it is outside of the community. Because I think externally, when people think of a coven, they're going to think of a group of women that are hanging out together, right, doing magic. But when you're in the kind of the circle, when people hear the word coven, it can have a lot of political and dramatic type of associations with it. There's a lot of people that have had bad experiences in covens because the moment you start to put any type of organization into a spiritual kind of path, you run the risk of power dynamics. You just do. And there's a lot of folks that have run into covens that have had poor power dynamics.
That's true. That's true. And in relation to that okay, I don't know how to phrase this, but in the occult, is there every single person, of course, has a role in there, right? You have the high priestesses, you have the witches, you have some of them are also new to this. Is there a hierarchy or some sort of thing like that where you find that someone's quote unquote power is stronger than the other? That's why they're given more authority or maybe more control over other things than others. Because, you know, movies do tell us that oh, when it
Yeah,
comes to
you
the
can.
occult, we have hierarchies.
Yeah, you can go ahead and find it, right? You'll find it. You'll discover it. There'll be certain. So if we go into a lot of the kind of occult practices, we go into the Golden Dawn, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and things of that nature. Even if you were to go into some of the mystics, in you know some of the old Jewish mystics, yes, they very well may have. A lot of times that tends to be a patriarchal type of approach, though, right? Hierarchy tends to be a patriarchal approach to spirituality if you see a hierarchy in it. If you're truly talking about you know, removing that patriarchal view, like, no, for the most part, you're not going to have a hierarchy. You may have folks that are more experienced, right? That's one thing, right? You may have folks that have been around the block more often. There's this really wonderful, you know, female magician over in the UK by the name of Josephine McCarthy, right? I adore her very much. I've been kind of reading a lot and doing some, you know, my next kind of round of studying under a lot of the work that she's done. And she's older. She'd be considered an elder, right? She's got a lot more experience. She's written about, you know, for years about this. If I were to meet her on the street, I don't think that she would ever consider herself higher than, but I would always give her the amount of respect that I needed because of the knowledge that she's gained, the experience that she's earned in her own practices, right? So I don't think there is a literal hierarchy that it exists in general. But yes, you will still move into certain circles within the occult space that will operate out of a hierarchy. And those tend to be more patriarchal led organizations.
Wow, so books and movies have managed to steer us into the direction of knowing that the older the person, the better the respect they get. Because you might be even better than them when you're younger, or even have opened your third eye earlier on than them, or maybe experienced more than they are. But since they're older than you,
Yeah,
that's what.
it's but it's not about hierarchy. It is about the experience. And I'm going to give you a bit of an example on this, right? You know, I'll be 45 in October, right? I've been at this since I was 16. So we're talking like, I don't know, what, almost 30 years there, right? I don't know, 20, yeah, whatever that is. I have experiences like I finished college. I've been through multiple points within an actual corporate career. I've been married. I've been divorced. I've contemplated children. I've watched people have children. I've watched multiple people die. I have a lot of life experiences, right? Somebody that is in the age of their 20s, though they may have awoken, they may have very strong psychic abilities, they may have a really strong connection to the divine, their toolbox of insights to pull from and experiences to be able to relate to other human beings with is going to be limited, right?
Mhm.
Their emotional maturity is going to be limited. And those, when we're on this path in the occult and in the mystics, there is an emotional point to it. A lot of our magic is involved in emotion, right? And so that
Mhm.
emotional maturity matters a lot. And so I don't know that it be so much about like hierarchy or even age so much as truly as the emotional maturity and experience of an individual, that's going to matter more than anything else. Yeah.
Mhm. And this next question, Jen, is more from me than anything anybody else on the internet can be asking, because this is from it's been itching me for a while now. Is it possible for somebody to have a glimpse into their third eye, or even a glimpse into all this, and then for it to suddenly disappear? Because one day you're feeling connected, you're confused, you're looking for answers, and then the moment you think you found it and now you're trying to get the same thing you had back then, it's like there's a door that's just shut and
Hmm.
you don't know how to open it back. Is that something that actually?
Absolutely. It's absolutely possible. I've run across it a handful of times. Sometimes I've even run across it in a like a microcosm, where I've had folks that have said they've been very in touch with their psychic abilities, but now they can no longer hear. Spirit no longer talks to them, or
Mhm.
they once upon a time had very vivid, visualizations and could connect and see, and now the sight has been taken. And there's usually some type of reason for that. Sometimes it can be a protection thing. I'll give you a perfect example. My gifts were taken to me from me when I was a child. I have had stories told to me that, and have had experiences in regression sessions of when up until the age of 6, I actually could still see spirit, talk to spirit, hang out with spirit. Uh, Through, very unfortunate situations. My mother, was pregnant and then was not pregnant. And my guides took my gifts from me so that I never saw my deceased sibling,
Mhm.
right? And so there's very often a reason, right? There's very often a reason. If you once upon a time had them or given them, maybe you needed to see something in that moment, right? And they're meant to blossom for you later down the road. Maybe it was supposed to be a taste to get you to start to explore and uncover and discover other things. But absolutely, you can have that insight, you can have that kind of third eye, that awakening and that opening, and then watch that be kind of, and I don't even want to say taken, right? Maybe that's a poor way to say it. Um, you may have them dampened until you actually are ready to have them open up for you again.
Uh-huh. Because when I was younger, like how you've said that sometimes it's like your brain trying to open it up for you and then maybe trying to show you, or maybe you need it and it's a mechanism of protection for you. Because when I was younger, this was very out there. It was really, for me, it was really, really out there. I could see my grandpa and all that. I could see things that have happened, but years on later, I asked my mom about it and she was like, no, you weren't there, so that doesn't make sense. But I could vividly describe it to her, and it was all because of my grandpa. But that time when I was younger, and it wasn't like toddler kind of young, this was an age of, I think I was 10 or 11. And I remember the first time I mentioned it. Of course, your parent will tell you, oh, you need to go to church because I'm in a Christian family. And from then on, whenever I saw or heard or felt anything, I could just keep it to myself. I just shut up and I was like, done. And from there into my teenage years, that's when, of course, you have nothing else to do. You have no one else to talk to. You just go on to Google and you're Googling all these things about witchcraft and all that. But there are no answers because you don't know what you're actually looking for. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're searching across an entire sea. And then I thought it was gone. because it's like one experience. You see a spirit when you're younger, you see things when you're younger, and then you think it's gone. But 4, 6, 7 years later, I see a different thing. And what I see now, it's the same entity I saw when I was a kid. And you can't make this up. Because a kid's brain can make it up, but a teenage brain to make it up at a larger scale, that's that's insane. So
Yeah.
so I was very concerned because psychologically it tells me I'm going mad. And then when I start hearing voices, it tells me I'm getting psychosis because that's what it told me beginning of this year. My test told me, you know what? You could get psychosis when you're older because it will explain everything why you're hearing things that are not there. It's not schizophrenia because they're not in your head. You're literally hearing it in the environment. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. I don't know how to explain it to you. It doesn't make sense. So that was something I really, really just had to know if it's a possibility that one day you have it and then one day it feels like it's gone. You can feel that it's there, but at the same time, it's like it's gone. I don't know if anybody who's listening can feel the same way, but I think I'm making sense.
Well, we often will be conditioned out of it, like you explained, right? It happens, you're told to dismiss it, don't talk about it, let's not take, let's go to church, we'll pray, right? That's a very common response. And then you stop talking about it and you stop believing that you're seeing it, right? And
Yeah.
so it when it comes back, it feels crazy making. It feels like, oh my goodness, did I just see that? If I had $1 for every person that sat in front of me or talked to me and said, I feel crazy, I'd be able to make a very sizable donation to my local animal shelter. I'll put it to you that way. A very sizable donation.
True.
Right. Because it does. These gifts can make you feel like you're losing it. And the reality is every single one of us has the, and I have experience with, not personally with psychosis, but a partner that I was with for 5.5 years ended up being diagnosed schizophrenic and was having auditory hallucinations. And so I would talk to my guides about this, and my guides are like, no, he's literally hearing it, right? Like when you believe in the concept of everything happens all at once, when you believe in a concept of multi dimensions being able to be experienced at the same point in time, all that my partner was experiencing was this other very unsafe dimension where these things were happening, but he was here in this reality, and it was truly distorting him. And I think that's why people get afraid of these gifts, is because he couldn't control it anymore. He would slide into these, right? And now, mind you, any of the folks that are listening, he was an addict. He had severe trauma in his past, had lived a life of crime. So he had a lot of things that were against him that caused him to like lose that ability of being able to hold on to reality. And it was a sad thing to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, but something else, as we just mix up in here in the same topic, something that I realized or somewhat helped me in the coming years as I grew up, and now I'm 23, like after leaving high school, and now I'm in college. I have so much time on my hands. So it became something like a mission for me, like an adventure to find what I had, because I knew I wasn't insane. When you see it once, yeah, you can try to dismiss it. When you see it twice, yeah, you can say you're insane. But 3, 4, 5 times, okay, now it's concerning, right? Because you can start seeing not the same thing, different things, right? So I think at that time, when I was younger, I was stuck into the whole Christianity thing, because when you're instilled these values by your parents, you can't deter from it. It's in you. You're in a Catholic school, you go home, you're in a Presbyterian family, so you're surrounded by church everywhere you go. So you don't know, who am I going to ask? So, and you're worried, if I ask, will they dismiss it? Will they call me up for it? Will they say, oh, now look, the devil's in her, she's trying to do this? So when I think it's the power of being older, I became my own person, and I decided, yeah, Christianity is not wrong, that religion is not wrong. I do identify that there are deities out there. We can't prove which is real, which is not. So let me just try to find a balance, because there really has to be a balance between the known and the unknown. So for the past 4 years, once I established that in my head, I was like, okay, put religion aside, get out of that bubble, get out of that box, try to figure it all out. This is a whole entire adventure. Everybody will come with their own stories. You'll meet at a certain point, because religion and the occult and the mystics will meet somewhere in the middle. That middle, maybe they won't agree. That's where branches begin, but there is a middle, and that's the journey I'm taking myself to. Because once I realized that, Jen, I'm telling you, everything started popping up again. It began with lucid dreaming. That's when, and that scared me. And it became the first thing I talked about on this podcast. Lucid
Oh,
dreaming became my first thing. And I didn't know what it was because it was horrifying. You guys, lucid dreaming is horrifying. I know sometimes I play it off
it's
as a
been my
magical
favorite
thing.
thing. I've thought it's been I've done it since I was a child, Kenzie. I
Mhm.
thought that's how everyone dreamt. I love to dream when I was like my mom had a hard time waking me up because I could put myself back into dreams and just keep into these lucid dreams. And I mean, I would do all sorts of, just I was a child, I hung out at school a lot in my lucid dreams, the neighborhood, my friend's house, all that. I wasn't, that epic of an adventure,
Mhm.
but yeah, I thought it was normal. And if you, depending upon the dream, were to like wake up in one in the first time, yeah, it could be horrifying.
Mm,
Horrifying.
yeah, because for me, my first experience was horrifying. It was terrible, Jen. Something now, it's one of those dreams that is stuck in my head and I want to forget, because I remember it so clearly. I was in bed. I was asleep. Now this is in my dream, but I can
Yeah.
feel everything. It's like I'm awake. I see myself waking up, but I can't move. I hear the clock ticking. I see myself waking up, checking the clock. It says it's midnight. And then I can't breathe. And I see
Mm.
myself moving towards the window, trying to pry it open. Because seriously, I feel like I'm suffocating. And then, boom, I wake up. Guess where I'm at? The window,
Yeah.
trying to open it. And then now I'm starting to panic. I look at the watch. It's truly 12. The clock says 12, Jen.
Ooh,
Everything,
that sounds like
it's
a
like I was
little bit
awake.
like an
I
out
wasn't.
of body experience there.
I was horrified because I
Yeah.
was scared. I was shaking because I remember the panic I was feeling, because I get panic attacks a lot. I remember the panic I was feeling in my dream, and I'm like, wake up, wake up. This might be a dream. Just wake up. And I'm trying to open the window and it's not opening. Turns out I wasn't opening the part that was meant to open. I'm opening just a glass panel. I'm a
Mm,
few inches off. That's why it wasn't opening. And that's what
mm,
woke me up, because I'm choking. I'm running out of air. I'm choking. I couldn't breathe. And then I wake up. I'm at my window trying to open it. I
mm.
look behind me, I check the clock. Exactly what I saw is, oh, I panicked so much. I panicked so much. I was so scared. So I just Googled. I'm on Reddit. I'm everywhere. And then that's where I just dived into lucid dreaming. And then I realized, oh, wait. So all those times when dreams felt real, when I just wanted to go back and be where I was, when I could actually smell, because lucid dreaming gets so good, you can actually start smelling things that are in the dream. You can start tasting things. You feel like if you're touching grass, it's actually what you're touching. And I was like, finally, finally, I'm in an age I can see it. I can say I've seen it, and now I can explain it. It was lucid dreaming. I was excited but scared. It was a scary, exciting moment.
Yeah, like I said, ever since I was a child, I've had them, and I've had some real creepy ones. I've stood in the middle of a full drive-by shooting in the middle of a lucid dream, watched every single person around me drop. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean they can be wild. But I've also had some pretty epic adventures as an adult. Whether it's traveling to
Yeah.
like the Grand Canyon or wherever it may be. Yeah, I've done some pretty crazy things. But yeah, lucid dreaming is a sign of strong clairvoyance.
Oh, it is.
Mm.
Yeah, because these are the terms. The terms, no matter how much you look, it confuses you. just confuses you. Clairvoyancy and what's the other one? There are four clairs.
There,
This
there,
clairs.
there
Is
are
it four or
actually,
three?
there are actually like at least 5 clairs. You have clairvoyance,
Uh-huh.
clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, clairaugustance, and clairalience.
Now you
Every
see.
one of our every one of our senses. So every single one of our senses, from our sense of sight, hearing, taste, touch, smell, and just even the sixth sense, which has its own, which is claircognizance. It's just this ability to know. When you get just a download, you're like, oh, I know you shouldn't go in there. People are like, why? We're like, I don't know. I just get a feeling. That's claircognizance. Yeah.
Okay, so where does lucid dreaming fall?
It's going to fall into the clairvoyance, right? So my
Okay.
experience of everybody that I've talked to, when I've just been able to correlate when people say they lucid dream, they very often are also showing the signs that they have clairvoyance. They're seeing spirit, they're seeing images. They'll be able to have a very vivid picture in their mind. They can even sometimes people will be able to like remote view and don't recognize that they're doing it. They'll know, like you said with your mom, how your mom said like you knew where these things happen. That's a remote viewing type of thing. Yeah, so that's a
Oh,
sign of strong clairvoyance. Yeah. Not
okay.
everybody has not everybody has the gift to visualize like that.
Oh no 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 no! The visualizing is scary, especially what you have said with remote viewing. I think most of what I've got is remote viewing. I don't know if you can you remote view the past?
Yeah.
Can you like lucid
Like if
dream
I
about the
go,
past?
well, lucid dream, sure. You can dream about anything, right? You can
Hmm.
dream about anything. But yeah, when I open up the Akashic records and I do past life sessions, yeah, I'm literally those past lives will show to me like picture shows, like movies in my head.
Okay,
And so I'll
now
watch like full scenes. Yeah.
okay, not like past life. Okay, let me give you a scenario. For me, the one I was telling you about my grandpa, my first ever experience. It was my grandpa died, I think, when I was 4. From my dad's side, he died when I was 4. So I have zero memories about him. So it's just stories about how fun he was and all that. No details, of course, because you're a kid, you don't remember. But years later, again, like I was telling you, when I was
Hmm.
between 10, before I started seeing him, I saw his according to my mom, it was his last months before he got sick and passed away. But I wasn't there.
That's yeah. I mean, that's still considered anything from before this point is a past life, even if it was in this lifetime, right?
Hmm.
So if I were to go back and like, let's say, for example, I wanted to take a look and see something that happened in your childhood, yeah, I could absolutely do it. And it's considered like a remote view. Yeah,
Yeah, because
you could think of it.
it felt like that. It's like you are playing back. And
Yeah.
it's not
Hmm.
like you're playing an entire movie. It's like playing pictures, just
It's like
snips.
yeah, and sometimes it can be like a GIF,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
it's just
you're
a
not seeing
short little.
everything clearly, but you can't tell whatever is happening. But from that, when you describe it to somebody else, they're like, okay, this is how it all went down. Yeah.
Yep.
That's
And that's why for folks that are listening, if you've never sat down with a psychic before, there's one thing that's really difficult for a psychic is when people stonewall. They try to like just cold sit there and not show you anything because
mhm.
what I see, I may describe to you something like I'll give you a perfect example. Number of months ago, I did a session and it was a mediumship session, and I
Mhm.
saw a bumblebee on a horse, a bumblebee with a helmet on riding a horse. Okay. How silly is this? A bumblebee, black and white bee riding a horse with a helmet on. I'm asking, I'm like, I don't know why spirit's showing me this. Why are they showing me a damn? I have no clue. Well, the client 3 days later sends me an email and says, hey, by the way, the bumblebee riding the horse. And I was like, yeah. Uh, we were talking and finally remembered it was this woman's aunt, that my aunt used to own a black and yellow motorcycle that
Mhm.
her and her husband would ride. Well, that's the bumblebee is the black and the white, or the black and the yellow
Mhm.
is the motorcycle, And the horse is the like movement and the horsepower behind it, and of course the helmet is a helmet. So it when a psychic's vision or images aren't always going to be this like crystal clear translation. Not, they can be very, like, you can see an exact scene, right? You can see an exact scene, you can see an exact replica of something, how something has happened, but it's not always the exact translation. And so a lot of times if you're sitting with a client, it's really important for the client to provide feedback and to give some thought to it themselves, especially in a mediumship session. Yeah, especially.
Yeah, and for those listening, I think you're the second person now who has mentioned it. We had another guest here. She does tea leaf readings as well, and she said the exact same thing. People come to her expecting crystal ball readings. They expect you to show them exactly what will happen or what has happened or what is happening. But sometimes your readings will be so vague, it makes absolutely no sense at all. And it can take you days, weeks, or even months for you to figure out, oh, this is what it actually meant. And it goes the same for tarot cards, if I'm not wrong, because
Oh yeah.
you can translate a tarot card in several different ways. And thanks to her, we went deep into tarot card reading, and I got to understand that as well, that for every single person, for every single psychic out there, they will translate the tarot cards differently. And depending on the situation, the answer will be different every time. If we both get the hanging man, my hanging man's answer is different from your hanging man's answer, because people expect that the book you buy on Amazon with the tarot cards, those are the only translations you'll get.
Yeah. And I love that you're bringing that up, because, and I'll tell you the reason why it differentiates is every single time you start to read, every time that you use these cards, you're going to start to establish different relationships with them. And so that's a perfect example. There's a card in the deck. It's a 7 of Cups. Some decks, it'll be very representative and obvious. That particular card for me is the addiction card. If that card shows up in a reading, the person that I'm reading for has an addiction problem, 100%. That doesn't read like that for everybody else, but I'm a recovering alcoholic, and so I have a very, very personal relationship with that card. So that's what it says to me, right? And so as people are using tarot cards and they're beginning to read them more and more often, you're going to start to establish your own type of meaning and perspective and how you understand it, in comparison that other people may not have. Other people just may not have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, your sessions, Jen, how are they like? Because I understand you have an entire workshop that people come to. You have different sessions with various people, and you've done this for a long, long time. So how are your sessions like? Let's say if somebody books a session with you, what should they expect in a nutshell?
Yeah, I mean, one-on-one sessions vary depending upon the individual and what their needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every session, if I'm doing it virtually, there's 2 things you can guarantee. You're going to get a recording of it, and you're going to get the written transcription of it. So afterwards, you can always go back and reflect on what was being shared.
Mm-hmm.
If an individual sits down for a psychic reading specifically, when I do psychic readings, I actually use pen and paper. So I find that very often spirit will try to give more information than I can comprehend in one fell swoop. So writing helps me be able to narrow down and focus, or take little notes to the side. So typically, people are either going to have a very specific question, or they're going to be generalized when it comes to a psychic reading. So they're going to say, hey, I'm looking at this new job. Perfect example, this woman who was interviewing, she's like, what's it going to be like? What do I need to have prepared? Is there anything that I need to be concerned of? Should I actually accept if they make an offer, right? And so we look at and we explore all of those scenarios. It's a very specific reading, and you're actually able to provide very potent messages when people are specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the more specific the question, the more specific you can get in the answer. But sometimes people will sit down and they're like, you know what, I just don't know what's going on in my life right now. Things feel weird and strange. Just tell me what I need to know. And so at that particular point, most psychics will be very similar to this. You're going to explore 3 areas: love and relationship, money and career, and then health is going to be the third. And so you explore those 3 topics. I always start with a psychic reading, right? So I'm always going to go on like a cold read of saying like, asking my guides to show me pictures, show me things, help me feel things, and help me connect. Sometimes they will draw me to using cards. So they may have me pull a tarot deck, they may have me pull an oracle card deck, depending upon what that question and the situation is. So those are the psychic readings. I love doing them. Been doing those the longest, right? I've been doing those since I was 16. And especially even with the cards, definitely 16. Mediumship, if somebody's going to sit down from a mediumship perspective, it's a little bit different. We're going to be trying to connect to some loved ones on the other side. And that's not always cut and dry. There's some folks that don't want to communicate. They don't want to be talked to. They don't want to come forward. There are some folks that can't. They're confused. They haven't fully crossed over. They have an energetic that's kind of stuck in limbo. In the Christian definition, this would be purgatory. Right? They're stuck in that purgatory state. And so at that point, that's a little bit more difficult, right? So I might have to do some work. I may have to work with my grandmother on the other side to try to help heal them a little bit in that transition, allow them to transition. And at that particular point, we're always going to try to find some type of evidence so that you know that it's your loved one. And then we'll work on any messages that are meant to be shared with you. But sometimes they might not come forward. That's just the truth. That's the reality of it. It doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. The last reading that I really love to do is I will open up past lives. I will go into the Akashic records of folks. And when I get to do that, you really get all the bells and the whistles. If guides come forward, which they often do from a past life perspective, they'll be brought forward. Loved ones, they'll step forward sometimes when we're reading past lives. I'm using the psychic abilities because I'm painting whatever picture that I need to be able to paint. But I'm able to go in and take a look at past lives and to identify very often things that may be impacting this current lifetime. And at that point, we pull out the healing abilities, and I may cut contracts, cut cords, provide healing. I may heal through lifetimes. I've done that a handful of times where I've had to go into each and every lifetime because there's been something that's happened in a past, some proclamation, real familiar proclamation that people make. They'll come to me and they'll be like, I'm just not lucky in love. Why am I having so many issues in love? I just can't ever find somebody. I can't find a partner. And we'll look at a past life and we'll realize that after a broken heart many, 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 many lifetimes ago, they've made some contractual proclamation that they're never going to love again, that nobody's ever going to be worthy of them. They're not going to allow that to happen to them. And so they're like, why am I struggling in my love life today? It's like, well, because you've literally never been in a close, intimate, healthy, loving relationship in any of your lifetimes. So let's go through and let's try to heal that. And so we'll go into all of the previous lifetimes to kind of wash out that energetic so they can have a fresh start in this one. So, I mean, it all varies. There's one that is a little bit different, and I do a psychic ability analysis as well. So people will sit down with me and I'll do a full analysis on their psychic abilities and provide them tips and tricks in how to best leverage and use them, depending upon where their strengths lie today. So, it depends on what you want.
And speaking of past life, that just ring the bell right now, Jen. Is there a possibility that someone didn't even have a past life, that this is actually their first? Because I know we all, let me just say, majority of us believe in reincarnation. Of course, when I was a kid, I was told when you're reincarnated, you'll be reincarnated as your favorite animal. If it's a butterfly, you'll become a butterfly, or a ladybug, or a cat. So super excited because I love cats and I love ladybugs. So I was like, ooh, I'm gonna become a cat or a ladybug. And I never wanted to become a chicken, by the way. Who wants to be reincarnated as a chicken? But when you grow up and then you keep on reading about different communities and how they translate reincarnations and past lives, you're like, I just had to wonder, is it possible for somebody not to have a past life, that this is actually on this plane, that this is their first life?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I have not met anyone where this is their first incarnation. Okay. I have met people that haven't incarnated a whole bunch. So there's one individual that I went back and read past lives, and they've only had a human incarnation about 6 or 7 times. Right. And they remain in the etheric state in between. I have also, this is actually, I think probably about a month ago, I had someone sit down from a fair. I was working a fair and they sat down, younger person too. And this was only their 5th incarnation as a human, because they had actually incarnated probably 30 something other times on a different planetary system.
So, and they do remember everything. Because you find
They,
for some people it's like glimpses, and then for others it's
yep,
like, oh,
their sentiment was they never quite felt like they belonged here, right? They always felt like something was different. And so, yeah, when you start to talk to them, they'll have those similar experiences. I've had handfuls of folks. It's very adorable because they're often younger people, right? I find more and more younger people, and they'll sit down and they'll be like, I don't know, you're going to think that I'm crazy, right? They're like, I'm going to say something really weird. And I'm like, I love weird. Go ahead and try. I'm like, the day one of you shock me, the session is free. Yeah, because I mean, I love it. I'm like, I believe in all of it. So yeah, you absolutely could. I just have not experienced it, because what I found is many of the souls that currently exist, kind of, you could say, in rotation, have been around the block more than.
And just being on the same thing, this is something I wanted to talk about on my own, but now since we're here, like, let me just ask you so that I can have a glimpse of it as well. How about think of it as this, where two people, not even just romantic lovers or even friends or even sisters, their souls somehow reincarnate in the present time, all at the same time, probably even different places, and then somehow they're drawn into the same situation and they meet each other, and you're like, I know this person. I know that I know you. I don't know how, but I know that I know you. And then the more you talk, you realize, yes, this was actually meant to be. Is that situation actually true? Because some people see it and then they're like, it's fantasy.
Absolutely. So there is, when it comes to a little bit of what you're talking about, is the concept of soulmates. And a soulmate is not an exclusive. There are many, right? What I found is that very often our souls will recognize when they've met each other in past lives. And they will often travel many, many lifetimes with each other, right? That's just how it kind of happens to be. There's a lesson. Maybe at one lifetime, they've agreed to learn these lessons together, so their souls continue to travel. There's a concept of the twin flame, which is often kind of referred to, a little bit of what you're talking about too. Some people will get into that concept. My understanding that I've learned about the twin flame is it's a soul that at one point knows that it needs to learn so much that its soul will divide into two humans, and they will continue to live in existence, right, until they have learned what they need to, and then combine again at some point. And then there are sometimes people will refer to as the karmic soul, or a karmic connection. And that means there has been something within a past lifetime that is now playing itself literally out in this lifetime with that other person. So yeah, absolutely. You will, it is very, very common. And I would speculate that my guides are saying at least 50% of the folks in your current life and in the life that you will continue to live have been with you in another lifetime.
Oh, that's wonderful, because me and my childhood best friend, I could consider that, we both have actually considered that as being twin flames for years, because when I was, now that was the time. This all starts, how weird is it, Jen, that all this just starts when I was 10. Every single story of mine starts when I was 10.
There's something that probably distinctively happened. Whether you remember it or not doesn't matter, but yeah, there's probably something that happened.
All I know, it all starts when I was 10.
Yeah.
I moved, and now we were close, thick as thieves, and whatever we did harmoniously. We lived miles apart, but every single Sunday when we met again, it's like we read each other's minds. We were wearing the same outfits, be it in color, we were wearing the same shoe, we wore the same shoe size. And by the time we moved, we met again 2 years ago, and we started talking, and we were talking about how our life has been for the past 15 years. And I kid you not, it's like it was scripted. We both had the same thing. Of course, some details here and there are opposites, where my father got sick, but sadly her father passed away, or she went through a very long stage of depression, and I went even through worse. And we were like, either or, that was how our life was. One of us had the worst end, one of us had the weaker end, but it was exactly the same, and all happening at the exact same moment, and it shocked us all. We just stood there.
Wow.
Wait. So maybe perhaps when I was crying, you were also crying because who knows, we were probably crying for the same situation. And I wrote it down on my notebook and I was like, the moment I came back for a new episode on this podcast, I'll talk about that. Maybe there's a possibility your soul can split and become two or even three souls when you reincarnate again. Because how can you even explain that? And I know some people will listen and they're like, oh, that's fantasy. You've read too many fantasy books. You've watched too many K-drama. But no, that is something I'm speaking from experience. It's not K-dramas. It's not Hollywood films. It's not my fantasy books. That is something I'm actually. It seems weird, but it does
Oh,
happen.
Once upon a time, gravity was a weird and a fantastical concept.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being
Mm-hmm.
able to do surgery, replace someone's heart, grow an organ on another animal, all fantasy, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes
lobotomy
it's
was real. Once upon a time, it believed it
yeah,
could cure everything, including a witch. Th-
yeah,
Once
yeah.
upon a time was insane. Nothing like the good old days. No, that concept is wrong by all means. But as we come to a close, Jen, I'm quite curious. How do you deal with skeptics that come to you for a reading? Because I'm sure that everybody who comes to any psychic or maybe for any medium, they come there willingly, knowingly, but oftentimes you'll find some people who are sent to you because they were told, no, you need this, you need to go there. And they'll come with one foot in the door, one foot outside, and they'll
Mm.
still leave being skeptic. And then later on, maybe they'll come back and tell you it happened. Or maybe when some people reject it and tell you,
How do
oh,
yeah.
whatever you did, it ruined my life. Now, psychologically, I had to make it happen. Have you had those kinds of people, and how do you deal with it?
I've never had the latter that you just said. Nobody's ever come back and been like, you've ruined my life. Um, but yeah, you're spot on. You know, I work a lot of public fairs. So I work a lot of fairs. I have the general public that comes in, and yeah, there are people that'll sit down and either, you know, they try to test, like I said, that cold read, or they are truly a skeptic. I remember I had a client sitting with me. She wasn't the skeptic, but her partner was, and he eye rolling the whole time, and it was a mediumship reading, and she's like, nope, nope, nope. Nothing that I was saying was hitting with her. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but like this person is adamant, right? Like adamant they know you. And so I finally look at her partner. I said, does this sound like anybody for you? And he's like, yeah, it's my grandfather.
Oh,
I
wow.
guess for like 20 minutes, I'd been relaying all of this information, right? And so it's gonna happen. He still was like, yeah, I don't know how you just did that type stuff. Um, but at the end of the day, my responsibility is to share whatever the messages that are coming through. It is not to make you believe them.
Yeah,
You
it's
know, it's
just to
not.
deliver the message and do
Yeah,
as you please with the information because that's why you're there in the first place, right? You're
yep.
not there to get convinced. It's not like ghost hunting where we go there to debunk every single thing, and when something real happens, we cower, we get scared, and then we call in a psychic medium to fix everything. No.
Yeah, no. So it doesn't happen very often. And if it does, I'll deliver the message. I'll kind of joke with them about it, you know,
Mhm.
and I'll just tell them like, you know, hey, cool, you know, like that's yours, your choice. I mean, at the end of the day, most of these folks are paying clients. It's very rare that I ever have a skeptic come forward that isn't paying. And so at that particular point, I'm
Mhm.
like, it's your choice if you want to believe me or not.
Yeah. Because nobody's going to force you, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. We are not here to force anybody to believe in
Mm-mm.
anything. You can try and debunk whatever you want. You can try and bring your beliefs however you want. We are not trying to force anything on anybody because you're free to believe whatever you want to believe. If you're a Christian and you want to believe all things has an answer, if you're a scientist and you want to believe every single thing has an answer, it's okay. It's okay. There's a point where we'll meet in the middle and then we'll figure it out in the end, like I said in the beginning. But
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much, Jen, for being here for this first episode that we have with you.
Oh,
Because
I
we'll
love it,
have
Kenzie.
several
Thank you.
other more where we'll dive even deeper. because it's quite a topic to talk about everything that you do. So we have to literally break it all down so that people can get the best understanding that they can possibly get. But is there anything you'd like to say to whoever is listening right now for this particular episode?
The only thing that I'm called to say right now is, if this is your first time hearing about any of this stuff and it piqued your curiosity, you better stay tuned, because I'm sure Kenzie's got a lot of other great stuff coming your way.
Definitely, definitely. And I'll link every single information about Jen down in the description, depending on where you're listening us from, be it Spotify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube. It'll be down below. Just go and click it. You can check out Jen. You can see her pics, see how much of a ray of sunshine she actually is. And if you can book a session with her. I don't know, do you do virtual sessions in case somebody can't meet you physically? Yeah. So you can also
I mean, around the world. I am a global enterprise.
And we will be back here. Who knows? It could be a couple of months. People, this particular episode has taken us 2 months to record because Jen had things on her end, then things happened on my end. We started discussing this on April. I realized that I checked my email. It was April.
Well, we'll definitely make sure the next one's scheduled before then.
Oh, we will. But I'm quite excited for the last one because it will be all about witchcraft. People will get to ask their questions. I don't know where I'll ask them. I don't know if I go to Reddit and ask these questions, but I know a couple of friends of mine will have several questions for you, and I know you'll come prepared. And who knows, you can show us a few items that you use during your sessions, especially for psychic reading, and maybe teach us how to properly use these objects, because some people, you people shock me a lot. You people shock me. How you pretend to know things. You think that you watch somebody on YouTube and then you think you're perfect at it. Or maybe you watch somebody in a movie reading tarot cards and then you buy them on Amazon and then you're like, watch me. I'm a psychic now, But anyways, people, it's been lovely having you here, Jen, and I'm sure everybody will enjoy this episode and every other one. And if you're new here, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. I forgot how to do my outro and intro as well, so we'll figure it out as we go on. But we'll be back here in another week, in a night, to talk about all things spooky right here on the campfire. So until then, bye-bye, stay safe, stay spooky, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!